So I'm looking for our next panel here. Is Jeff? Aha, stage. Right. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about these folks as they make their way to the stage here. And we have Amber Kelly, and you can find your best spot here. Amber Kelly is dedicated to helping individuals and families plan for the future. She helps develop comprehensive financial plans, income planning, and such. Spent several years providing counsel to financial advisors from around the country on how to build suitable and ethical business practices. And with her, and that's from Global Health Women. And John Thomas from Global Health Management. John is a dedicated in developing and management investment strategies across global wealth management's client portfolios. He's an investment advisor representative. John works directly with families to provide them with comprehensive wealth management and retirement planning services. Welcome, John. He's a recognized professional in the financial services industry, and it's all about, we keep talking about this financial management and money and retirements and all that, and that's, you know, it is money, and I don't mean just to make that sound like a negative thing. Otherwise, why are we in business, right? But the other guy, our money man from IYBA, who happens to be our fourth term ex-checker of the Treasury, Jeff Stanley of Gilman Yachts. He's been around a while, as and started his brokerage career in 1979. I was around in 1978. Jeff, I wish I'd known you then. And he and Joe Maturak started Gilman Yachts. Jeff is president of Gilman. Jeff remains active in brokerage, averaging 30 closings a year. And we commonly call Jeff around the boardroom, because he's a board member, as Sea Trial Jeff, because he has to miss a lot of meetings because he's always on sea trial. Treasurer, IYBA treasurer, and that's it. So Jeff's going to monitor this panel, and I'll just take it away.
Thank you, Bob. So, Amber and John, you're fortunate to be in front of this unique crowd of people that you may not realize it, but they made a movie about yacht brokers. The guy named Matthew McConaughey was in it, and the movie was called Failure to Launch. So, it's, we're looked at as a little better than used car salesmen, I think. But I think Matthew, at the end of the movie, changed professions and went straight and was able to retire. So we're hoping that you can help us get to that portion. And before I start, is Steve Moynihan in the room? I was going to excuse him. He's probably with Merle and Stuart having coffee. He doesn't need this speech or this talk we're about to hear, but I think most of us will be able to benefit from this. It was a idea when we were setting up this conference, something I came up with, and I thought it would be a good idea for maybe the younger people in the audience, who I'm surprised there aren't that many of today, but you know, we are in a business that most of us are independent contractors, and there's no one to look out for us other than ourselves. So you've got to have a plan. You got to pay yourself first. It's not always the most exciting topic or the most first topic you want to get into, but we're in a business where we can make a good bit of money, and we can go through some slow points and some famine. So you've got to put away money, and you've got to plan for the future so you don't have to do this for the rest of your life. When I got into business, I heard about the yacht brokerage retirement program. And I really didn't know what they were talking about. And one day I heard that the yacht brokerage retirement program is to sell another boat. So I'm hoping Amber and John can give us some insight that we may not be able to have to adhere to that. And we'll have some plans. So Amber, when you're planning for a financial future, what are the areas that one should think about?
Thank you. The way that I look at retirement or your financial future is looking at like a roadmap. So if you think about you want to drive to California, you could probably get there, but if you had a map, you might make less wrong turns, you might burn less gas, you might not drive your tires up. So it is no different with your financial future. So making sure that all of the areas in your plan come together. I believe we have a slide. I'd like to pull that slide up if you could. For instance, when you are starting to accumulate, so what your, next slide please, and one more. One more. One more. All right, there it is. So when you think about your financial future, you have income, you have taxes, you have legacy planning, you have real estate, you might have investment, you've got healthcare. So there's all these different areas, and a lot of times people unfortunately work in these microclimates to where they might have a broker, they might have an attorney or a tax professional or some other individual, and they are working for you in your best interest, but who's connecting the dots between all of those different areas? And how do you make sense of them? For instance, if you're considering paying off your mortgage, or maybe doing a cash out refinance, well, your mortgage broker can tell you the best interest rates and the best type of loan for you to take, but what does it do for your financial plan? When you put money away, where do you put money and why? Does your money have a purpose? Are you saving for your future retirement? Are you saving for your children's? Are you providing for a legacy? What is the intention with your money? And making certain that all of those areas come together. And so I'm a firm believer that no matter where you are in your financial planning phase, make sure that you understand that your money has a purpose and that it needs to have a purpose if it doesn't. So those are some of the areas that I would start to look at.
So let's maybe go ahead and break down some of those areas. John, what do people need to know when they're starting off saving versus those who are getting ready to retire?
Yeah, when you're first starting off, the key to anything is getting started, right? You've got to just kind of get the ball rolling. We've all heard when we're young, if you just start out when you're young, the time value of money and that compounding effect really adds to the growth of the account in the long run. So like anything in life, you just got to get started. And there are many ways to do it. You could start out with a brokerage account, just a regular account that you can tap into if you need it, right? Because we need to have an emergency fund as well. So you got to actually, it starts out with having an emergency fund, and then once you've got your 6 months or year worth of income as an emergency fund, then you look towards investing money, and then you can invest money in a brokerage account, which is a taxable account that you pay taxes as you go, but it's available to you before the age of 59 and a half. Now, once you've got some investments in a taxable account, then you maybe look towards an IRA account or a Roth IRA account and save towards retirement. So the benefit of those retirement accounts is you get some tax benefits, right? You get tax benefits in a traditional IRA, or if you've got perhaps a larger business, you really want to save more, something like a SEP IRA or a simple IRA or a 401k if you've got many employees. But there's some tax benefits there, and you want to take advantage of those. If you can do a Roth IRA, great, because a Roth IRA is tax-free. You put the money in, it's after-tax money, so you don't get the tax benefit now, but you get that tax benefit in the future. The key is to just get started. You got to get started, and out of sight, out of mind. I love how Jeff mentioned pay yourself first. To me, that refers to retirement. You pay towards your retirement first, and then you can enjoy the fruits of your labor with spending now. Another aspect of it, though, with savings is also keeping yourself out of debt. Now, with interest rates rising, debt is getting more expensive. So you've got to consider this. If you have debt that's really low interest, let's not pay that off. Let's keep that, actually. There's some benefit to having debt if it's at a very low interest rate, perhaps that you took on in the past. But going forward, if interest rates are higher, perhaps pay down those debts. That's a return on your investment when you're paying down debt. And when you look towards retirement, the less debt that you have in some ways, the less income you'll need because you won't need quite so much investment income in retirement if you don't have a mortgage or other debts at that point. So the key is to get started, invest, keep it simple. You don't get too complicated necessarily when you're just starting out. Keep it simple, S&P 500, or just one thing I want to mention is don't chase what's hot yesterday, because what's hot yesterday, as we can all see with what's happening in the market and other areas of investing, some of those areas have fallen off the wayside here a little bit, and so you don't want to chase what's hot yesterday because it might not be necessarily what's hot tomorrow. The key is to get started with investing. And then, once let's say you've already gotten started, then it goes to what Amber talked about, having a plan and having a purpose for all your investments and really making sure that you've got a bucket approach to your investments.
So Amber, tell me a little bit about what income planning consists of.
Yeah. So in a room full of commission, or you get paid on commission, it is extremely important to know what your next, where your income is going to come from. So know your numbers. Know what your expenses are today. What do you need to maintain your lifestyle the way it is? Or I should back up and say, know what your needs are, and then what is your wants and the lifestyle that you want to live. And that is true for today as it is for your future. So what I do oftentimes is I think about, where do you want to go? So everybody knows, where they want to go in retirement, what they want to do, how they want to live. They want to downsize, upsize, travel, and then determine what kind of lifestyle do you need and how do you provide for that. So, for example, in your financial future, you're going to have, hopefully, Social Security. I'm sure not many of you in this room are entitled to a pension, but if you are, congratulations. Or if your spouse is entitled to a pension, that's going to be one source of income. Maybe you have real estate and you have investment or real estate income. And then finally, for most of us, we're savers. So you've got your retirement accounts, tax-deferred, taxable, and tax-free accounts. So I like to look at it as determine what your income sources are, and then identify what your income gap is. So let's say you need $8,000 a month to maintain your lifestyle, and you know that your residual income through your your Social Security or rental properties is going to be maybe $4,000 a month. Well, you've got a $4,000 a month income gap. So what do you need to do today to save to make sure that you can provide to meet that income gap? So start now in being forward thinking and making sure you understand, am I saving enough? Am I doing the right things today? Or don't wait, like he said, don't wait, because time is going to be your best friend as far as compounding your money and the ability to create mailbox income or mailbox money. So.
Yeah.
So John, maybe you can talk to us a little more about tax planning and why it is so important in today's market.
It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Am I right? And so you've got to consider taxes. You want to pay as little taxes as possible over the lifetime, over your lifetime, and you've got to really think about that. But there are benefits to, for instance, we talk about brokerage accounts where you pay taxes as you go. The key there is that money's accessible to you. So you don't want to find yourself in retirement with all of your money in an IRA where you got tax benefits as you went, but then you retire and now all of a sudden you've got to pay taxes. Basically you think about it, 25% to 30% of that money is the government's money. If you have $1 million in an IRA or a 401k, that's not all your money. It's not $1 million to you. It's $750,000. And that's a sobering thought in some ways. So you've got to kind of diversify yourself in terms of where your investments are from a tax perspective. Try to get as much money, frankly, in Roth IRAs as early as possible, because that money is tax-free forever. And so you want to keep that there. And And so if you're in a relatively low tax bracket, for instance, if you have a rough year and you maybe don't have as much income, take some money out of a regular brokerage account and contribute to a Roth IRA. So you want to have all of these little buckets so that down the road when you're withdrawing money, you can take them out as as needed in the most tax efficient manner as possible. So like I said, there's 3 different types of accounts basically. They're taxable accounts. There are, and that's a savings, a bank account, a brokerage account, an investment in a property or a boat or anything, right? I mean, those are taxable type investments. And then there are tax deferred investments, which are IRAs, 401ks. Those types of investments are tax deferred. You get a benefit going in, but you got to pay taxes on the way out. And then you've got tax-free investments, which are generally Roth IRAs, where you don't get a tax benefit now, but when you withdraw the money down the road, you get to withdraw that money tax-free down the road, which is a wonderful thing. So those are, it's just a little sprinkling of ways that you can, just plan for taxes and try to be as efficient as possible when you are paying those taxes.
So Amber, healthcare costs is a hot topic lately. What can we do to help plan for down the road with healthcare costs?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure all of you are getting up and drinking your green smoothies every morning, and and we're all living longer, and it's a very serious topic, and making sure you are adequately covered. And I just want to say, whether it's today or in the future, make sure you don't overpay for health insurance, or don't overinsure yourself too. Meaning, I always go back to make sure your money has intention. So in particular, maybe you are contributing into your health insurance, or maybe a life insurance policy. Do you have coverage for your future health care? For instance, a long-term care policy. Not a lot of people think about it until it's too late, or until it's gotten to a point where you've maybe cared for a loved one or kind of witnessed the devastation that it can take on your portfolio. A lot of people decide to self-insure and say, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. I like to use insurance as a tool to leverage, right? Leverage up in what you could potentially do. So use insurance to your benefit, and then make sure you're using it to leverage covering some of those future healthcare costs.
One other, has anybody heard of an HSA account, a health savings account? So if you've got a high deductible plan, you're allowed to invest in an HSA account, and you get a tax benefit now to put it in, and then it's tax-free going out as long as it pays for health expenses. So that's one. If you've got excess income and you're looking where to save that money, you can start with an HSA account. It's something that a lot of people aren't aware of, and it's available out there. They're fairly easy to find. Fidelity, I know, has a way to do that, and many banks also have other ways to do those HSA accounts. So that's a little sprinkle. You can't put a ton of money in there each year. Roughly, I don't know, about $4,000 a year, and maybe for the whole family, somewhere around $7,000 or $8,000. But it's something that's out there. If you've got excess and you just have money sitting in a bank account that's just not doing anything for you, you can put it in an HSA account, get a little tax benefit now, and when it's used for health care down the road, it's tax-free. Or really, anytime it's tax-free when you're using it for health expenses.
So why is it so important for us to have a legacy plan? Explain a legacy plan, if you would.
Legacy planning, when you think about it, if you've got children or other beneficiaries out there, you care about keeping as much of it for them as possible. Or it could be that you want to, if you don't have children or family, maybe you want to, and even if you do, you may want to contribute to charity. That's obviously another big part of it. So it just depends on what's driving you, but you want to take care of it properly. You want to do that with the proper trust documents. Make sure you have beneficiaries listed on file on any accounts that you have. Again, we don't want to go through probate, right? I mean, that's money that's just down the tubes to the government and to taxes, and we want to try to avoid that. So legacy planning is there's more to it than just naming beneficiaries, but that's a good start, frankly. You want to think about life insurance if you are, if you've got excess, and really not just excess, but let's say you've got family that's relying on your income every month or every year, and God forbid something happens to you. What are they, how are they going to care for themselves? And so it starts out with having, at least a small amount of life insurance. So you take care of your beneficiaries and your children and your family if God forbid something happens to you. So these are the things where you think about legacy. It's basically what happens when you're gone. And I know that's something that maybe we don't always want to think about, but it's something that you should at least consider and try to take care of properly. And there's some easy ways to do it. And so there's, like I said, it's not complicated. You could start out small and get more in depth as needed.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So John mentioned if you're providing for your family. So let's say you're the primary breadwinner and your family is dependent on your income. This is where legacy planning meets income planning. So what if something should happen to you? What are they going to do? So what is the spousal continuation plan? Or what if something happens to them and they're the primary breadwinner? And what is the spousal contingency plan for yourself? So make sure you understand how, again, where your monies are going and have purpose. And a lot of people think that you need to have wealth. Whatever that definition is to you, you don't need to have wealth in order to have an estate plan. If you are a loved one or if you have loved ones, make sure you're being prepared. So if you are incapacitated and can't make your own decisions, who's going to be your power of attorney? What kind of healthcare decisions do you want to be made? Do you have a healthcare surrogate or a directive? And then the will and or the trust. So making sure there's a lot of things that happen before death that are taken care of, and then of course after death you want to make sure that your monies are going in the right places, and then you have proper titling, and that you don't have big mistakes. We see it often in our industry where there's very simple things that could be done to avoid really big mistakes after a loved one has passed away. And if you are a loved one, a recipient of an estate, have the conversations. I know it's uncomfortable, it's weird, but have conversations with your loved ones and make sure that you are prepared, because anybody who has gone through probate or who has gone on a scavenger hunt trying to find accounts and passwords and things like that, you're probably nodding your head because you understand it is not fun to go through. So just make sure that you are prepared and that you have an estate plan.
So Amber, to summarize, where would someone start?
Good question.
If they didn't have a plan in place now, what do they do?
So a good place to start would be, we have a whole bunch of books out front. You guys are welcome to head on out at break, and you're welcome to grab a book. You just see Natalie there. Our book goes through the 5 areas that we just talked about: income, investment, tax, healthcare, and legacy planning. And the areas, and we break them down as far as what you should be thinking about and looking for. And then really just sit down and talk with a professional, talk with your family. What do you want your lifestyle? What do you want your future? What are the things that are on your mind? What are your goals? What are your concerns? And really identify what that is, because that's going to start you toward what you want your future, your financial future to look like.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Don't sweep it under the rug. You've got to get that out there and you've got to talk about it. And sometimes these are difficult conversations. You may find yourself, you're 10 years behind where you probably should be, but you got to start somewhere. And so, or you may be well ahead, and congratulations. But, I think everybody needs to at least have that conversation with their family, or just set aside some time periodically to map it out for yourself and create a roadmap for yourself to retirement, whether you get help or not. Come up with a plan, and it'll serve you well down the road.
Thank you, Amber and John. Do we have any questions from the audience? Paul's got a microphone. Imagine that.
We all get the easy part, the life insurance, but my life insurance, I can convert half of it if I get hurt. I just don't know if a lot of the guys know that they can get a policy that if you get one of the 7 issues, because God forbid you slip on a boat or you get hurt or you get one of the 7 things, you want to tap that life insurance while you're still alive. I mean, if you get killed or you're dead, obviously the policy kicks in and that's kind of an easy one, but if you get hurt, now what do you do?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and a lot of the newer policies these days are multi-purpose. So you made a great point. Maybe in the old days you'd buy a life insurance for legacy, you'd buy a long-term care policy for your future health care, you buy a disability policy, you buy all these various policies, and so today they've made them a lot more flexible. So you could have a policy that duals as an investment, so you accumulate a cash value in there. So if you never use the policy and you decided later on you want to take that cash out, it also has a death benefit. So if you died immediately and never used any of your benefits, your beneficiaries do get that tax-free death benefit. And then if you do fall ill or you can't perform 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living, you can activate it and turn on the benefits to provide for you and kind of use that death benefit for what we call a living benefit, so during your lifetime. So a lot of the newer policies have become more competitive for your business, therefore they're making them a lot more flexible, a lot more transparent.
Quick question. Jeff, by the way, I'm a huge fan. It's a big honor to be asking a panel question. And it's going to be directed to either one of you guys regarding budgeting. And like my wife and I struggle with trying to figure out exactly what you were talking about before, how to stay within like your spending needs versus wants and all that stuff. And we'll have an extra glass of wine. And 2 days later, there's like 30 boxes from Amazon that just shows up. Can you guys talk about like how to keep track of expenses? Is there like an app or software that you guys use or recommend to help try to figure that part out?
So I track everything. I'm kind of an Excel junkie, and I know it's probably not the most advanced app, and I'm sure there's other apps that you can feed in. I know several actually that you can feed in, link your account so it'll tell you, hey, this is what you're spending on, this is what you're spending too much money on. For me, I use Excel because I have a tab for every little aspect. I have a budgeting tab, I have an asset, I have a liability, I have a goals, I have all my passwords, I have everything kind of saved, and I really protect that, and I go in at least a couple times a month and I am monitoring that. And if I do have a bad month, like Amazon packages, that happens often at my house, I know why, right? And I know what happened, and then I go back to it and I say, okay, well, what do I need to do to get back on track? I also have an area where I have my assets, and I set a goal. So I have like what they are every month, but then I have a goal, and I set it an attainable goal. Don't, you know, I'm sure in your business you've got really great months and then really hard times. So make sure it is attainable. And so if you go in and you're tracking that and you're monitoring it, you will deviate from it. But if you're disciplined enough, and I think if you create consistency with whatever mode of your savings and what you're trying to track, I think if you do it enough, you'll create consistency and you'll bring yourself back to the plan that you've set up for yourself. I don't know, John, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, it's just a matter of keeping it front of mind. I mean, you just gotta know where you're spending your money. And that can be a difficult conversation sometimes with yourself or with your spouse and family. I mean, sometimes it's hard, it's a sobering thought when you yourself realize how much money you've spent each month. So you just got to kind of be aware of it and be top, front of mind, and I think that's the key. And it does start there. It really starts with the budget. As much as we want to talk about investing, you can't invest what you haven't saved, and so You just kind of have to be aware of what you're spending on and whether there's some fat there that you could trim in your monthly budget to work towards retirement and saving and investing. It definitely starts with a budget. So that really is perhaps the most important part of the whole puzzle.
And I think if, like he said, if you pay yourself first, so I add my savings as a budget item. It's a debt in my eyes. So every month, that money is going to come out like a bill, and it's set up on automatic, reoccurring. So on this date, there it goes. And so I don't, and I know with that money, it's going to grow to future to where I'm going to be able to utilize it. So I know that the surplus that I have, that's when we kind of move around with the surplus. But as long as I'm paying myself first, I know that that's going to be for my future.
Who else has a question? At the park on the other side. Thank you. Once again, good seeing you up there, Jeff, and appreciate what you guys are doing. Do you guys have any information on actuaries, and do you guys recommend those at all? I've had people tell me that's what I should be doing, and I just don't know if brokers do that, or if you're familiar with something like that.
In terms of, for
Like
what?
doing an actuary, like apparently they say there's an actuary you can assign somebody, where you can invest tax-free and put a certain amount of money into an account, and I just didn't, I don't know much about it, I just didn't know if you guys, you do that a lot in the accounting business or tax business?
No, I don't. Trying to think of what that might be referring to. Annuity, perhaps. Yeah.
No, I think it's apparently some way to set it up. You actually have to assign.
An insurance policy, perhaps, or
You have to assign somebody, I guess, your investments. I'll look it up and try to do it, but I just
Interesting.
obviously that answers my question. It's obviously not a very popular thing, and that's what I was trying to find
Yeah.
out.
You know what I would say is there's always some, frankly, there's a lot of different new types of investments that are out there that maybe nobody's understood or heard of, and I don't want to discredit any of those, but I think in some ways you got to keep it simple. I think what we've seen in the market here recently, and not to criticize cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency's crashed, frankly, and so you keep looking for the next great thing. And sometimes you just gotta, buy some Procter & Gamble stock. You just gotta keep it simple, and just kind of, we're big fans of Warren Buffett. Just buy investments that are gonna pay you income, whether it's rental property or dividend-paying stocks or an annuity that's protected. You got to invest in all of these different buckets, and you put it all together, and then lo and behold, you've got a plan. And so I keep it simple would be where we would start. If I can't explain something to you, then don't buy it. And so if you can't explain what you've bought to a friend, frankly, don't buy it. Would be what I would be my advice.
I would like to kind of add to is what we try and do is I'm not a CPA and I'm not an attorney and I'm not an actuary, but what we do is make sure that all of those areas are covered, and we've built a network of professionals that understand and speak those languages. So we don't go beyond what is outside of our comfort zone. So we'll build a plan that is tax efficient, but if you need tax law advice or Roth conversion or tax planning, anything like that, then you bring it into that tax professional. Or if it's legal planning, same thing. So I would just say make sure you understand the purpose and what your money's doing, because certain aspects might be important on their own, but just bringing it together and in a full circle would be beneficial.
Any other questions from the group? Got time for one more. We had the opportunity to engage with any number of different
I have one more thing while we're talking about money. I don't hate to be a Debbie Downer, but for all of the independent contractors in the room, today is 1040 ES day for second quarter payment. So don't forget, irs.gov.
Thank you.
Takeaways. That's great, incidentally. Good work, good interaction between the attendees and such. Couple of things. Amber said have a purpose for your money. That was said 2 or 3 times. Have a plan. Get started. Pay yourself first. That was said, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. But you did you have legacy planning, okay? And define the difference between need and want. But you did say one thing that I'm a little puzzled. If you're unable to do 2 of the 6 daily activities, you mentioned that. Like I'm at 3, should I be concerned right now? All right, is the question.
Yes.
All right, okay. All right, well, I'll check into the Mayo Clinic after this then. So, all right, we're going to take a break now. I'll let you know when to come back in. It may depend on Representative LaMarca's schedule. Go out there, network a little bit. We have a swag bag provided by IYBA, so collect all those goodies. There are stocking fillers around Christmas. Your kids will say, gee, Grandpa, thanks for the hand sanitizer. What? Oh, CPYB. See Wendy. Get your credits. See Wendy at the desk, the registration desk. And don't forget this.